So hello everyone. Very good afternoon to all of you. ऑनलाइन में मेरी आवाज जा रही है और स्क्रीन दिखाई दे रहा है? अचानक से आप लोगों को मैसेज गया है? सडनली दे हैव बीन इन्फॉर्म. ओके, तो वो उसको छोड़ दो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. और ये बहुत फॉर्चुनेट है. शुभम सर, ये मेरे छोटे भाई हैं. उधर दिखाई नहीं दे रहा होगा, कोई बात नहीं सर, दिखा दीजिए एक बार. यस. एंड आज हम लोग के साथ 3 साइंटिस्ट हैं, 3 साइंटिस्ट, एंड आई डोंट नो द प्रॉपर इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ देम, सो दे विल इंट्रोड्यूस देमसेल्फ इंडिविजुअली. ओके, और उसके बाद आपको जो भी पूछना होगा, दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड इंग्लिश. ओके, दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड इंग्लिश. So please introduce English.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to come here. It's a great pleasure to be here and see so many of you looking so full of excitement, which is fantastic. So my name is Lars Montelius. I'm a professor from Lund University in Sweden. Lund is in the southern part of Sweden, 600 kilometers from Stockholm, which is the capital of Sweden. And I'm a professor at solid state physics, and I'm working on nanotechnology and nanoscience my whole life. I defended my thesis 1987, and since then I've been a researcher. I've also been a director for a large intergovernmental research laboratory in Portugal for some years, and since some year back now I'm back in Lund, Sweden.
Okay.
Any questions? Yes, sure.
Yes. Hello everybody, it's so nice to see you. My name is Ingrid, and I am retired from a very interesting work as a student counselor at Lund University in the Humanities. So I'm not a physician. No, right. That's right. Okay, what more to say? I was in India 41 years ago, in Jharkhand, Bihar, at the school. Yes, yeah. And that was such an experience. I was there for 3 months and met young children, and now we returned back 40 years later, and it was a bit different, but it was so interesting to be back. So this is my second stay in India.
Hello everyone. I am the younger sister of Ingrid, and my name is Elisabeth. I am also a physicist, so I work on the same department as Lars is. I am not a full professor, but an associate professor of physics, and I am dedicated to teaching. So teaching has been my life for all my life, more or less. So I meet many students like you every day, and that's a reason for going to work. I have been to India a couple of times, although it was a long time ago. So I visited Varanasi 30 years ago, and that was one of the most beautiful experiences I have had. And I can say that Varanasi is still as beautiful as it was at that time.
So I'd like Professor Lars to give some points about learning in Sweden, how they can reach in Sweden from India, and what are the different kinds of studies there. And they are very enthusiastic to know about this study pattern there. They are the students of life sciences, and they are all are the students of life sciences. At this level, at research level, I think research is integrated.
Sure.
It is integrated with physics,
Yes.
life sciences, chemical sciences, etc. So please guide them how they will do PhD in Sweden and how they can reach there, please.
Yes. Thank you. Just to comment about this with the interdisciplinarity, that working with other people in other fields, it's really necessary. That's what I've been doing my whole life. I've been working with people from medical departments, with people from sensor department, chemistry department, pharmaceuticals, etc. And I think this is very, very interesting and inspiring, because together you reach further than what you can do alone. Alone you can do things quick, but you will never reach far if you do it alone. So working together is really the key. So Lund, the Lund University is very much open to welcome people in different levels for master studies and PhD studies and postdoc programs, of course. But those of a shorter exchange programs, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, etc. And there are some things that you can find on the home pages, of course, and other things are more, let's say, by mouth to mouth in a way, by interacting with people and then finding out solutions. So there are always a lot of, let's call it tricks, if you like, where you can find ways how to come to Sweden, right? And Sweden is, of course, just one country in Europe, and there are many, many possibilities in Europe to go there and do research days or to visit people and learn from each other.
Okay, thank you.
May I just add that you don't have to worry about languages. We have our own secret language here, the Swedish, but English is spoken almost by everyone. So if you come for master students or PhD students, language will never be a problem.
Your English is more like Indians. Yes, your English is more like Indians. Just आप लोगों में से किसी को
This is also
yes,
common.
please.
So I mean, this is also common. I think that English is not our mother language, is not our mother tongue, right? So we speak English, but we are not super experts in it, and neither are you. But that means that we meet each other in a much more equal way than if you go to Great Britain or to United States, where they may speak things that you use words that you do not really recognize. We have the same problems when we go to Britain or English-speaking countries.
आप लोगों में से किसी को कुछ पूछना है ऐसा कुछ? Yes.
Hello, sir. My name is Kashika, and I have a question for you. That is, if you ever register or if you enroll for a program like for PhD especially, and you first of all you won't get the reward back. So I'm just asking, like, what sort of CV and what is the format for basically that you got registered? I mean, like for enrollment over there, and what is the chance of expectation?
So if I understand you correct, you ask what kind of preconditions do you need in order to attend a PhD program in Sweden, right? Yes. So, I mean, it's a Master of Science degree if you speak about the sciences. Or I would say Master of Science degree, generally speaking, is what you need. And you need to apply, of course. So the open positions that you apply to, and you will be evaluated, and then you will be appointed, right? So I myself, I had 2 Indian students a long time ago, and you are very competitive. I mean, you have a very good education in India, so you should not be afraid about that, right? You should try, and you will manage, no problem, I would say. You would like to comment something? Yeah.
Maybe comment on that the PhD positions are really positions. So you apply for a position and you get paid for the work you do for those 4 to 5 years that it will take you to reach your degree. A lot of people apply, but at our department, we right now, as an example, we right now have around 150 PhD students, and the majority are from outside Sweden. And there are quite a few coming from India, but also from Iran, Iraq, and other places east of Sweden, southeast of Sweden.
Yes, please. Anyone else? किसी को और कुछ पूछना है? बताइए। मुस्कान? हाँ, बोलो बोलो कशिका।
Can you provide you like can you give us some suggestions? How can we prepare for ourselves for interviews, like for PhD interviews? Like what sort of questions that we get over there, and how should we prepare ourselves?
Yes, please.
Do you want to comment?
No.
Well, I mean, you should, let's say, you should be prepared. I mean, you should have your degree, of course. You need to find a position to apply for, and you need to write an application. The applications are usually according to some form. You need to fill in the things in the forms. I would say the most important things is to try to explain what you would like to achieve. Right? It's not so much about the formalities, and I would say equally in the when you will be asked questions is about how committed you are to what you would like to do. So it's not about repeating the text that was in the opening of the position, more to show your compassion about it, because this is the most important kind of selection criteria. Because, I mean, everyone that applies, that will be called to an interview, they have the basic requirements. So then it's more a matter of who do you find you think could actually make a difference for the world, right? To be able to take your degree and come up with something that is important. Yeah, you, let's say.
Yeah, it's never wrong to know something about the department to which you are applying. No details, but something at least, and you will find all the information you need on the web pages. So that is not a problem. But during an interview, you should show yourself and your passion for what you want to achieve, as Lars said. That is the most important thing. Sometimes the applications also contain a few questions within the subject that are selective, so you really need to answer them in a good way, and they might also be put to you in an interview. So, I mean, all of you can find a good answer to a question, but it's also something that you should really feel that this is important for this position, then I have to know about this subject. So that is about that.
I mean, some questions are also about yourself. I mean, you may get the question, can you describe yourself? And so you should be prepared. You should have your, let's say, your pitch ready, right? What are the things you would like to put forward that you think would benefit you the most? So I think it's not really rocket science. It's really about thinking, put yourself in the other guy's position and say, how would I appreciate answers from someone, and then understand and prepare for that, right? And I think there are many programs. I mean, there are some Swedish Indian programs, but there are also specific programs. And at Swedish universities, the PhD is open for everyone. So it's not selected countries; it's open for everyone. Although there are some specific ones that could apply only between different countries. So I think you should make a try, for sure. Yeah.
One question I would like to ask. You all have been here in India and you are from Sweden. Apart from studies, what are the differences between Indian students and Sweden students? Knowledge or environmental ways, if they can cope up with that environment and all the things in Sweden, what they have to keep in mind to go to Sweden and continue their studies? I would like to ask her also.
Yes.
First you. First.
Okay.
First
No,
you.
I just would like to make a comment. I mean, as said before, I had two female PhD students from India who worked for me, and the first thing that they found difficult really was the climate. They were not used to having minus degrees in the winter time, but indoors it's always like 20 degrees, so you never freeze indoors. It's never cold indoors. It's always warm. You don't where you can be like this indoors all the year. But outdoors it could be very cold, right? So you should be prepared for that. But maybe that was more like a joke or so. But I think when I compare the knowledge level from the Indian students I also met people when I was in Portugal that were Indian.
Okay.
They're very well educated. They have a lot of skills, and what I think is really what distinguishes is the ambition. You are very ambitious,
Yes.
and you all work very hard in order to make a result. And I think I think that is the single most differentiating aspect. So it's a pleasure to have Indian PhD students. I think what one need to do is maybe to halt a bit, because it's not only about making studies, right? You should also need to reflect upon it. You should need to see what you're having around you, meet other people, networking, speak, etc. So, but I think it's a great possibility.
Okay.
Since you are in the field of humanities.
Yes. Well, I've mostly worked with Swedish students because it's on more basic level in literature and film and theater and creative writing. And often they are not so sure of what they want to choose, because you can choose every term or every year to combine your own studies to a bachelor or to a master. So that's often my job, to talk to Swedish students, sometimes foreign students, to help them to be able to think for themselves how to go on. Because I don't have the answers. You have the answers yourself when you just get the right questions. So that's what I do. Maybe we should talk about the food. Because it differs very much. Well, some Swedish people are vegetarians, but mostly eat meat and fish and so on. So that is a question to, well, for you. But I don't know. What shall we say about it? It's we have good Indian food, and from other countries too.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Please add something.
Mm?
Yeah. Now, I was thinking about the when we visited your school
Yes.
in Jharkhand just last week. We met very young Indian children, and in the classroom it was completely quiet. In a Swedish classroom, it's never quiet.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. Yes. But that was just to say that if you approach your professors, you are not supposed to call them professor. You call them by name. So you come very close to your teachers at university. And I can't tell very much about that because I'm a Swede myself, but I have had exchange students from, for example, from the southern parts of Europe. And they say that that is one reason for going to Sweden, because you feel more equal and you can put all your questions to your professor, whether he or she is a very high-level scientist or not. It really doesn't matter. And maybe we should tell the story about Anne Luyer. This fall, one of our colleagues at our department won the Nobel Prize of Physics. And she got the message of her winning the prize in the middle of a lecture. The students heard her mobile phone vibrate. They knew that the prize was going to be announced, and there were rumors that she might get it. She didn't pick up the phone. She lectured. Then in the pause, or they had a break, She took the phone, went out and took the phone call. The prize was announced to her in the phone at that time. They asked her to be present in 30 minutes for a press conference, and she said, well, maybe I can do it, but I have a lecture to finish. And I think that is something that, I mean, she's a role model for us all. But it's also quite typical that if you have your students in front of you, you take care of them. Not everyone would do that. And I have, by the way, to say that she is French of origin, so she is not a Swede.
Thank you very much. This was very important question for us. Anyone else wish to ask any question? हाँ, और किसी को कुछ पूछते हैं ऑनलाइन में? यस, दीपांजलि, बोलो बेटा, पूछना है कुछ?
I want to ask that when you were students and how you manage your studies and get to the research work and what all problems you faced while studying or having the research work.
In your college life or in PhD duration?
In our own?
Yes.
Yes, please. Well, I think when you start the PhD studies, suddenly I make one note about something I noticed myself. After about 6 months as a PhD student, I had done a Master of Science studies before, and in 6 months you learn a lot of stuff, right? So a lot of subjects you teach, you've been taught, and you learn a lot. And then 6 months in the PhD studies, I said, what have I learned? And I think I've learned really nothing, because it was very hard to read the scientific papers. It was hard to understand why do I write these strange sentences in this way? Why is structured in this way? What is essence of this? And then the work that I do myself, it was a lot of engineering work, of course, to get things done, ready to make measurements, etc. And it took time, of course. And so I think this was the things that struck me in a way that, and it's not really a problem, more like a difference with PhD studies and non-PhD studies. What was really nice was that we were very much included into the research environment at the physics department. So we went from being a student to become a colleague to everyone, which was really nice. So I think mostly it was very joyful. Of course, it's a challenge, right? So I had my first kid, or I didn't have, my wife had a first kid during our PhD study. She was also studying for a PhD degree. So it took some time, of course, to take care about that as well. But it was I think the time was very good. I was in a very good department, and there was a lot of possibilities for interactions. So one thing that I think is very important is the interaction. So as often as you can, network with other people, have your pitch ready, so to say something that makes them interested of you, and learn from them what they do. Because it's not about you telling them what you do, but you should learn from them what they do. Try to understand what they do, and make friends, because the networks are super important in life. It's one of the most important things to have, let's say, many friends, right? Or people that you know. And it goes for everything, whatever you do. If you go to a conference, or if you meet people, student, fellows, etc., etc. Always try to network. I think this is important. Elisabeth, do you want to?
Well, my PhD studies was a jumpy road. Straight on, but in a way jumpy, because my self-confidence was not at its best. But in some of the evenings every week, I worked at an evening school and met students, and that was very good to compare with the research environment I was working in. I felt quite a lot alone in my research field. Small department, not so many people around. But going out in society and meeting people then and teaching in evening school was a very good input for me, because then I felt that, well, I'm needed. At least in some way I'm needed, because research does not give you that immediate feedback. It takes time. So that was, I was a bit frustrated. But I know also, when I see PhD students of today, that the studies are more, what should I say? It's more like you are more taken care of. There are every year you go through your schedule. How long have you come in a year of research and this and that? So there are more. You take courses in a more regular way. So you get in some way you get more support, or at least you feel that there is someone there around who keeps track of you, and that is important.
Well, I can say I didn't reach my PhD. I did other things,
Yes.
but I have a bachelor and master in these subjects that I have been a counselor in.
Maybe another comment about my PhD studies. So when I started 1st of August in a particular year. At the same day, my PhD supervisor, he started as an associated director at Edufocuss in Stockholm. So he left Lund for 2 years. So my first 2 years, he was in Stockholm, I was in Lund. He was in Lund about one time every month, and then they put a schedule on his door, and you could sign in for 2 hours. That was the meeting I had with him every month. And in the first time, it was like a very nice discussion, saying, well, I've been doing this and this. And then next time I thought that, well, he would probably not remember anything from last time, so I could probably say the same thing again. No. He had taken notes. So he started with where we left and said, okay, you were supposed to do this. What has happened? And I said, wow. So there are challenges, there are bumpy roads, but it's really, really fun to do it, right? And it's a lot of rewarding, because you are getting the highest degree you can get, which means you get I would say like a driving license, if you like, for doing work in every country in the world. By having a PhD, you have you don't have a work permit, of course not, right? Because there could be regulations, etc. But you are welcomed in every country, right? So it's very nice. Thank you.
So whether you are a student of India or whether you are a student of Sweden, you have to go through some struggles.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to go to some struggles. Doesn't matter कि आप कहाँ से पढ़ रहे हैं, क्या पढ़ रहे हैं, right? Okay.
Can I make a
Yes, please.
So sometimes when I speak to my students, I say doing the PhD is like trying to open a door that is shut, and you try to bounce your head into the door many times to try to open it, and then suddenly at some point it starts to open a little, and then you can glimpse in, and I say, oh, there is another world in there, and then the door opens a little bit more, and then suddenly you are in this space where you say, oh, I kind of understand this now. Right? So there is struggle. You will never achieve it without struggle, but it's worthwhile, the struggle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
They will be having some time limitations.
It's okay.
So I just wanted to ask that sometimes whenever we are studying or doing some work, like we are like disappointed in ourselves, we wanted to quit and leave everything and go and do some other stuffs. What keeps you guys motivated, and what are the things that will motivate us to do? What is the most important thing right now for us is to study and go for a higher education. So what are the things that you think will motivate us, and what was the thing that keeps you motivated still that you guys are doing such a good job?
Yes, I usually say there are two important questions in life. One is, who am I? And the second is, what do I want to achieve? And I think this last one is really what motivates us, right? Because by learning, we may be able to improve society, make impact in society. And it could be in different ways. It could be you yourself doing something to improve, or it could be you yourself being a supervisor for students and helping them to achieve something. So it's really about improving, and I think this improving is probably the motivator, right? Because we are all living here on Earth, and right now we're having I would say, rather complicated time in the future, right? Because we need to do the green digital transition or the green transition. We cannot continue to use fossil fuels, right? We need to change. So we need to produce goods that are really sustainable, that can be recycled. We need to take care about we should not even have waste. We should only have products that can be recycled. So there is a big challenge, and I think we all need to contribute to that. So I think in all these challenges, of course, there are immense opportunities, right? So if we can come up with something that to take away some, let's say, pollutants in the air or in the water, etc., it will be very good for the society. And I think this societal improvement is really what drives at least me forward, right? So I usually say we scientists have a scientific social responsibility. We need to improve society.
Thank you. Okay, done.
There's one more.
हाँ बोल पूछो हिंदी में पूछो.
Thank you, sir, for giving me a chance to ask something. But I have no questions. But if somebody asks about their career and study,
Okay.
I want to thank you for.
Okay.
I want to say something that in the past we considered you as foreigners and unfamiliar to us. But in this age of globalization and modernization, every country coming together to every each other, and now we think that you all are as our family members. I want to know that how do you feel about our country, our culture? You are staying in this country.
They have said it many times, but she has a lot more experience. I guess. Anyone.
Well, I don't know.
Actually, that's a typical question from the cases.
That's a typical question for UPSC student. It's a highest level of examination in India, and he is preparing for that only. So, what are your thoughts about India and the peoples of India?
Well, it's heaven and hell. Yeah. Well, I'm so much like India in many ways, but I also see that it's the traffic today. It's and there are many things that is different from 40 years ago. Well, I felt as a child that I had some connection to Asia. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, I saw a picture of India, and I felt this is something, and I had no idea what it was, but something. India as my second country. It's it's so.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my sister was here and I had never been to India, and she's the reason for me going to India the first time. Because I got a letter from her saying Ingrid Nelsson Delhi or whatever it was. It was on the backside of the envelope, and I said, oh, I have to go there. And no, I think it's like you expressed it, the contrasts of this country are huge. We have contrasts in our country as well, but not so colorful and not so distinct. And this is, it's difficult to explain, but there is something very, very special with India and Indians that we meet. It's very easy to talk to you. It's very easy to get in contact. You can look people in the eye and you could really talk to them. Of course, it's easy also because many Indians speak English, so we can contact. If you go to another Asian country, you go east and go to Thailand, for example, you can't speak a word because that is that is Thai, yes. And Swedish is only spoken by 10 million people, so it's not really useful anywhere. So that is my impression. And as we have said, all three of us, we are planning our next trip to India already. And we hope to be able, I mean, we are getting older and the world is crazy, but hopefully we can come back.
Yeah, I really like the, let's say, the Indian culture. You're so rich in culture, right? So, I mean, we were at the Samat today, right? And we were in Delhi at the National Museum, and we're seeing so many things which show the absolute fabulous culture tradition that you have. That, I mean, we in Sweden, we do not even be close to that. We kind of astonished, right? I mean, Sweden 400 years ago was misery, right? And you had this high culture, and you have a lot of very good values, I think. I mean, the ethical values, taking care about each other, which is very, very important. And you're all very friendly. So I've always been felt very, very welcomed here. So maybe to say, first time I was here when my PhD student got married. So I was with her in the marriage and the ceremony. It was fantastic, and everyone was super friendly, and it really made an impression on me, right? So it's really nice.
Thank you so much. Please. So thank you for your time, and you all people can thank me personally for organizing this organizing this small talk, okay? And yeah, this little boy. Okay, so do you people like, again, in the future I can arrange this type of a small talk with future with present scientists from Indian and foreigner also, okay? So you can message me personally. Online students, there are a lot more students in online there.
Sir,
Yes.
so if you kindly allow me, can I ask one last question? I'm really sorry.
That should be very brief. That should be very brief.
Yeah, I will break it down. So I had a very particular question that I feel being an Indian student while doing my masters, I'm doing my masters currently. So I have this doubt in my mind when thinking of what to take up as my subject of dissertation or research, particularly because I feel there is a considerable gap between the theory and practical, because the research world is absolutely different. There's a big jump when you go from theory to research. I think there is a difference in the Western world because they still have a little bit, I don't know really, they have more experience in the research while doing their masters, but we are more focused on learning the theory while pursuing masters. So how to overcome that and know what subject should I take up for my research? This thing. And lastly, what are some of the cornerstone values that you all think that a PhD scholar, a researcher requires to succeed in PhD?
This has been answered in earlier videos. Earlier question answer. This has been.
I actually joined a little late, so I
Right.
actually missed out a lot.
Okay. So how to overcome between theories and practicals, gap between theory and practicals? So some few words if you would like to say.
No, I think you are very right. I think it is very important. I think. I mean, even if you would go more, let's say, in the theoretical parts or the low TRLs that you speak about, then you should do it because there is something out there that you would like to improve that has a high TRL or high applicability. So you could kind of I mean, you can think about this. I usually sometimes show a man sitting cutting stone, and someone asks, "What are you doing?" And you can answer, "I'm cutting a stone," or you can answer, "I'm building a cathedral." And they're two different, completely different understanding of that, right? So you could cut the stones, but you should do it because you would like to build a cathedral. So it's about the, let's say, when you will apply your research. So I personally don't think there is a difference between fundamental research and applied research. It's just a time when you apply it. The applied research is now. The fundamental is maybe 5, 10, 15 years from now. So it's more a sequence. And then, of course, since I'm from the nanosciences, I think you should do nanoscience, of course.
And sometimes I feel I interpreted your question a little bit differently, maybe, but many of our students in Sweden, when they do their master's thesis, they are involved in research already then. And that could be an advantage, of course, but it does not necessarily mean that it's bad doing something else. We have students going out in industry for their master's work and coming back to academia then for a PhD. We have people doing, I mean, there are many ways of getting an entrance into a PhD, but I think that, of course, if you have a possibility to involve in research already on a master's, at the end of your master's, that could be an advantage, but I won't say that it's necessary.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.